Hello! I recently got back from a trip from Ecuador and I want to tell you all about it. So I was only in Quito for about half a day, then I went to Quilotoa for a day and spent most of my time in the Galápagos. We decided not to do a cruise in the Galápagos because we tried to do a last minute one, but even a last minute cruise would have been $900, and we decided to just do as much as we could by land and doing some day trips. I think the Galápagos time probably cost us about $400 once we made it to the islands, but also $400 to get there. So that added about $800 to the trip, but was very, very much worth it. And I can't wait to tell you about our adventures in the Galápagos Islands.
We are headed out to the Fort Lauderdale airport. This is my friend Reneem. She's coming with me on our Ecuador adventure. Today was kind of our first day of vacation. Today we just hung out in Miami, but now we've got our backpacks loaded up and are taking an Uber to the airport. Good morning! Day one in Quito. We landed last night at like 11 p.m., went to our hostel, slept a few hours, and then woke up at 6 because we were on our way to a tour that starts at 7, leaving the city to go find a lake. But yeah, you can definitely tell the elevation. Right now we are about 3,000 meters above sea level, and the city is very hilly, so even just a 20-minute walk is getting me very out of breath. But that's okay, we can push through it. And yeah, it's a Sunday morning. Everything is closed. Everything. We're gonna look for a little breakfast before our tour, but can't find anything, so we'll just be hopping on the bus soon. Alright, good morning. We stopped at a market and we didn't really know what to get, but we ordered a few different things. So we have some arepas, we have some chocolate, we have colada morado, which I have absolutely no idea what it is, but people just thought it was the thing to order here, so we're about to try. I'll let you guys know. Alright, Reneem, what is that you're eating?
A hot fruit salad.
I really don't know what it is. Colada morado. It tastes like pineapple, maybe some apple, and it's just hot and saucy, and it's really good for breakfast.
It's delicious.
It's very good.
It's really good. Yeah. So I went on this trip with one of my friends. Her name is Reneem, and we first flew from Miami to Quito. And again, we only had about a day and a half in Quito, and we got to see a little bit of the city, but we decided to spend most of our time going up to Lake Quilotoa because I had seen pictures of that lake and it just looked absolutely beautiful, and it was. We made it to Lake Quilotoa. Look at that. It's incredible. I love lakes. It's so beautiful. This is a crater lake, so it's near some volcanoes. Very high altitude. We're now at 4,000 meters above sea level, so I don't know how much hiking we're gonna be up for, but we're definitely gonna walk a little bit around the rim here. There's a trail. You can also walk down to the lake and back up. We'll see. We have 2 hours till we have to meet back up with our group, so just gonna explore as much as we can. Look at it. All right, we've been walking along the trail along the outside of this lake. Here's a different angle. Seriously, can't get over it. Beautiful color. What a neat lake. We're just walking around and look what we found. A llama. This cute. So for our second day in Ecuador, most of what we did was travel. We had to fly from Quito to the Galápagos Islands. And I will say, while I was in Quito and Quilotoa, I was feeling a lot of altitude sickness, so I was relieved to be flying back down to sea level to the Galápagos Islands and be getting somewhere warmer. living in Miami definitely has been very nice for me since I'm someone who does not like the cold. Alright, I literally don't believe it, but we've landed in the Galápagos. I seriously did not think we would make it here, and we did, and I'm so happy. Okay, we left the airport. We're taking this ferry, like barge, to the other island where we can take our taxi to the town where we're staying. Yeah, we just don't really believe that we're here. The sun is very strong. Saw an iguana, saw a pelican already. We're just on our brief ride to the Alright, for day one in the Galapagos, we landed and we decided to hire a taxi driver to take us on the tour of the highlands. So there's a few things you can see on the middle of the island. And when you land in Baltra Airport, you have to drive across the island all the way to get to the town of Quilotoa, which is where our hotel was. That's like one of the biggest towns in the Galapagos Islands. The Galapagos Islands altogether, it's an archipelago, which is a group of islands. About 7 or 8 different islands, but this is the main one. They have the whole together population of about 25,000 people, but the most people are living on Santa Cruz, which is where we first landed. So we drove across with our taxi driver and we got to see a lot of really cool things on the way. Okay, we just got dropped off at our first stop. Let's see what it is. We're doing a quick walk to oh my goodness. Look how deep that is. It's actually very deep. The second crater, these are called the twin craters. So there's two close to each other. They're just these big old craters. We were just reading on a sign that the land we're walking on right now was created by like magma that cooled down, so it was volcanic before, and then turned into this landscape just so many years later. The tunnel we're walking through was made by lava. This whole ground was, so that means it's like igneous rock, which is very cool. It's actually pretty deep and tall, so it's not so hard to walk through. There was only one part so far that we had to like crawl through an opening, but for the most part, it's pretty cleared out. Okay, tortoises make their own lagoons. They need the water to regulate their temperature. They make it because when it starts to rain, they all step on the ground together.
And
they make the lagoon.
You know, that's a whole, like, they start...
Alright, it's our first dinner in the Galapagos, and we found this street, Calle de los Kiosks, which has like all these little restaurants set up with $5 dinner specials. So we're having our soup, and then we got some fish coming, and it's delicious. I think part of what makes this food so good is that I just haven't had much of an appetite for the past 24 hours. I think from the altitude in Quito. But this food, I'm loving it. I'm hungry, and it tastes very good. Just taking a nice little evening walk by the pier, and look who we find. Also seeing some baby sharks swimming down here. The second day in Quilotoa, or on Santa Cruz, our second day in the Galapagos, we decided to do as much as we could without paying for a tour guide. So we went and found a few places that were either free entry or you pay upon arrival, but you didn't need a national park guide to get in, which there aren't that many places like that in the Galapagos. Most of the spots you need a guide to go. But it was a really fun day because we got to do everything on our own pace, and we had brought our own snorkels and masks with us, so we still got to see a lot both on land and in the water. Good morning, we're in the Galapagos. We are still in Santa Cruz, and we are now at the little fish market. So there are some boats here bringing in their catch from early this morning, and then there's Sally over here. Lots of birds congregating, hopefully to get in on the feast. We're just walking and we found this ceramic garden. It's really pretty. Okay, behind me you can see a marine iguana. This species has evolved to swim in the water. Most iguanas don't swim, but these iguanas do. They swim into the water because there was not enough food for them on land, and they eat the moss on these rocks, which are often covered in water. So they swim. They've got these big old feet they use as like flippers, and they swim and they just nibble, and there's so many of them on these rocks. Very cool to watch them eating. All right, here's some 4th grade science that I taught this past year. So the primary consumer in the ecosystem in the water here often are herbivores like zooplankton and jellyfish. So of course the energy is all coming from the sun, then it goes to the plankton. Then after that you have your secondary consumers, which are little animals that feed on the primary consumers like small fish or squid. Then the tertiary consumers are larger mammals such as larger fish or mammals like sharks. And then the quaternary consumers are large predators like the tiger shark, the white shark, or the whales. And then there's decomposers that decompose some of the dead plants and animals, like fungi and bacteria that live in the reef. So there's the ecosystem. Okay, sharks actually have 7 senses instead of 5 like humans. So in addition to hearing, smell, sight, touch, taste, they also have something called electroreception, which means that they can sense when there's like prey or predator nearby, and then 7 pressure sensors, so they can feel the pressure of the water in this a lateral line that runs through their whole body, and it can sense when there's a pressure change in the water. Okay, for lunch we got some more seafood. We have a fish with coconut sauce, french fries, and then some garlic shrimp with pasta, and it's all very, very delicious. Alright, we're in a water taxi on our way to a Las Grietas, which is a place we go snorkeling, and then a beach. Alright, we got dropped off from our water taxi, and now we are just following this path towards Las Grietas and also towards a beach. These are salt flats behind me. So salt is a mineral and it dries up. The water from the ocean dries up and the salt is left behind. All right, time for a post snorkeling in the bay Snickers bar, and time to journal about some of the animals that I've seen so far. All right, man, it's been cloudy all day, but when the sun shows up, it's here for a show. Sunset time. The beach is closing. We are on our way back into town, and I love it. Day 3 in the Galapagos Islands. We had booked a tour to Isabella Island. So we wanted to go to Isabella because we heard that there was so much wildlife in Isabella. Even though we got to do a lot of cool trips from Santa Cruz, we wanted to at least go to Isabella for a day or 2. All right, so we had booked this tour and it included a ferry ride. So we went 7 a.m. We get in line for our ferry. Ferry costs about $35. We get on a little water taxi that brings us out to a boat, which we are told is our ferry and looks much smaller than we had anticipated. This boat somehow fit 20 people, but like really shouldn't have. It was a very small boat with like 2 little motors in the back, kind of shaped like almost like a triangle, but it was all enclosed. So there was 2 benches like facing each other and then 1 bench in the back. And luckily there was this really kind woman who switched seats with me, so I was able to sit in the back so I could look straight forward because I just knew I was gonna get sick. And I did. That was probably the worst boat ride I've been on. Personally, just like the worst conditions. The water was so choppy. So I will say this, if you're someone who gets motion sickness and it's like unbearable for you, don't go to the Galapagos Islands. There's a lot of currents, which is what provides such, well, one of the reasons why there's such rich ecological diversity in the Galapagos Islands, but the currents mean that the water is like really strong and wavy. And also when you hear about the Galapagos Islands, you might be picturing it to be like blue skies, sunny, kind of like here, but this is Virginia. In the Galapagos Islands, it's cloudy most of the time and it rains really often. So even on this boat ride, it was raining part of the time. Anyways, so sitting in the back literally for 2 hours and 45 minutes, just gluing my eyes on the horizon, counting in my breaths and out my breaths. I've really been working on this technique to try not to get motion sickness as much as possible. So I was like breathing in for 2 counts, like out for 2, in for 3, out for 3, trying to slow down my breathing. My goal was to get like in 8, out 8, and I only reached that twice on the whole trip. But yeah, couldn't even listen to music, couldn't do anything because I was just so focused on the horizon and not getting sick. And when we arrived to Isabella Island, I was, thinking I was going to be grumpy and in such a bad mood, but the island itself is so beautiful. We got there, we walked off, we're standing on the dock, we're all seasick, everyone in the boat is seasick, and we just see these sea lions like waddling around on the beach, and it was just so happy to have finally arrived off the water and be in such an incredible place. And it was really worth it to get out there to Isabella because the wildlife out there is, again, like we thought we were really impressed with Santa Cruz, and then we went to Isabella and we were like, whoa, like the animals there just interact with people. They're not shy, they're not scared. Well, at one point there was a sea lion that was like going up towards a road and it was about to cross this road, and then we were walking a little bit in its path, so it was trying to go this way, we were going this way, and it just like paused and waited for us and like gave us this look, and Raneem and I were like, that guy's letting us go. But it was like a sea lion, not a human. Anyways, animals act like people. It's really cool. Or people act like animals. I don't know. It was cool. So our first day there, we did go out on a little boat tour to an area that's nearby. And we got to swim with sharks, little sharks. We got to swim with a sea lion for the first time, swim with a penguin. And we were like, I think maybe like that boat ride was some type of like torture, like we like died and went to heaven or something, because the island of Isabella was just incredible, and day one we were impressed. Island. It's a sea lion. Okay, where are we, Raneem?
We are at Endemic Turtle.
Getting some pizza! Alright, but then day 2 on Isabella Island. So day 2, we decided was the best day of the year for both of us. It was really cool. Like, we had a few things we were trying to do on our own. We went snorkeling in Concha de Perla, which was really, really beautiful. One of my favorite things to do. And then after snorkeling, we got to do another one of my favorite things, which is kayaking. And kayaking, again, we got to see so many different animals because kayaks move so quietly and so peacefully that the animals are not bothered. Again, they don't mind people out there in the Galapagos. And that was just, again, such a cool experience to get to go kayaking with all these animals. And we got to see penguins and sea lions working together to try and catch fish. So the sea lions would like chase the fish underneath, and then the fish would swim up higher, and the penguins would scoop down and grab them, and they were like sharing the hull, and it was really cool. It was such a beautiful tour.
All right, good morning. We are in the town of Puerto Villamil, which is on Isabella, and it's this tiny little town. You can see this is the main road right here. It's just waking up now. We've been up since 6 because we're just going to bed at 8 or 9 and waking up very early now. on that schedule so we can see all the things there are to see in the daylight. But yeah, it's a very small, cute little town with lots of beachy restaurants. And so Isabella Island is the largest island in the Galapagos, but with the smallest resident population. So there are people living here, but not so many. Yeah, but it's a nice place to walk around. It's easy to get places. Alright, we're about to go snorkeling on our own in a bay called Concha La Perla. So, got our snorkels, going in the water. Okay, we just finished snorkeling and we got to swim with some sea lions who were very playful. Now they are napping on the steps. The sea lions, those are the ones we were swimming with. Like, seriously, they would just play with us. They would flip around, swim around, chase you, swim right up to you, and then swim away. And then now they're getting tired, so they're taking naps. Over here we have some blue-footed beauties and penguins. Alright, day 3 on Isabella Island. First of all, at this point we had worked out that instead of getting on the ferry to go back to Santa Cruz, we were going to fly in a small plane, the ferry was $35. The plane one-way return was $120. So it's quite a bit more, it's about 4 times the price, but I thought it was worth it after such a bad boat ride. And what I was thinking is, even if I get really sick on this little plane in the air, at least it's 35 minutes as opposed to 2 hours and 45, which I can handle. Anyways, so day 3 we went out on our final tour. We went out to an area called Los Tonales. It's on the western side of Isabella Island, so you have to take a boat up there, and actually takes like an hour and a half to get there, which again, got pretty seasick. But once we got there, it was just beautiful. It was cloudy and rainy, but still beautiful. And we had an incredible guide, the first female guide I saw in the Galapagos. I kept asking, are all the park rangers here? Are they all men? Are they all? And then we met her, and I was like, I'm so happy that we get to work with you. And she was incredible. My friend Renee pointed out that it's just another example of women having to be the best at what they do in order to be taken seriously. She was by far the best guide we had, and everyone in our group said that. But anyways, so shout out to Glenda, you were great. So anyways, she's a really cool free diver, so she took us down snorkeling, but she would also swim down to the bottom to go find things, and she had such a good eye for spotting seahorses, spotting manta rays in caves, spotting these sharks that were kind of swimming together. And even though the water was a little bit murky, we were able to see a lot of cool things. Plus the sea turtles. We saw maybe 20 sea turtles, so many sea turtles, really big ones and then some smaller baby ones. And that was really fun to get to swim close to them. It made me think of my times snorkeling in Oman. So that was just such a wonderful last day in the Galapagos to get to snorkel with, oh my goodness, with all these animals that we have been hearing about, thinking about, and just to get to see them so close in the water, and again see how they're not afraid of people. They would just hang out with us. And then after all of our snorkeling, we got on the boat, and Glenda had brought this big old pot of tea and sandwiches, and we had lunch on the boat, and then rode the boat back to Puerto Villamil, which is the town on Isabella Island.
at an area called Las Tunanes. It's like these tunnels made by the lava rock. It's so beautiful. Look at this, like cacti growing. We saw a big old sea turtle swimming down there. There's lots of blue-footed boobies and other types of birds, marine iguanas, sea lions, penguins, just all kinds of things living out here. The boat ride was a bit rough and I did get soaked, so I'm wrapped up in a towel, and it's raining, but we're gonna go snorkeling in here and see what we can find. Walked down to the place where you can see flamingos. Here they are, not too many, but they're looking for food. Okay, so flamingos are this color pink because of the food that they eat. They eat a lot of like shrimp and algae and other crustaceans. When flamingos sleep, they sleep standing on one foot, and when they're looking for food, they use their feet and their beaks both to dig for food in the sand. And the next morning, Saturday morning, we took our little plane, which was about a 9-person plane. Had these tiny little rows. I sat literally right behind the pilot, and for our 35-minute return to Baltra Airport. We are at the airport on Isabella Island. We got dropped off here, and we were the first people here before anyone else who worked here. And it kind of looks like a construction site because it kind of is. They're like building it. But apparently our plane is going to come here and take us to Baltra, which will hopefully be better than the boat ride here. And yeah, I guess you don't really need all the fancy amenities of an airport. All you really need is the runway, which we have. All right, getting on our plane. There it is. Back to Baltra, and then from there we had like a few-hour layover. Then from there, from the Galapagos Islands, we flew to Quito, which is again capital of Ecuador, mainland Ecuador, and we had to stop in Guayaquil, which is another city in Ecuador along the coast. Once we got to Quito, we had a 6-hour layover there, and then from the Quito airport we flew to Fort Lauderdale, up this way, to Fort Lauderdale, and stayed in Fort Lauderdale for about 8 hours. But we went to the beach and tried to make the most of our day. And then after hanging out in Fort Lauderdale for the morning, she flew back to Philly and I flew up to Virginia. So now I'm here with my family. But I just keep thinking about all the cool things I got to see in Ecuador and have been so excited to share this footage with you all. I know this is kind of a long vlog, but seriously, there's been nothing like this trip. I highly recommend if you ever get the chance to go to the Galapagos. It's expensive, but it's so impressive. If you're someone who likes animals, likes plants, likes learning about science. It was so cool to see the work of the research of Charles Darwin and along with other scientists about adaptation of animals, and just made me really proud to be a 4th grade science and math teacher and excited to learn a lot about these creatures to go back and teach my students and also to share it with you all. So I hope you all have a great summer and I hope you enjoyed some footage of Ecuador and that you get to make it there someday yourselves.